the dumbest thing your brain has done on autopilot? Story 1. When I got a car from the first time. Next day I drove to the grocery store, did my shopping, took bus back home, woke up in the morning, car is missing, remembered that I left it at the store. Story 2. Got up in the morning, showered, shaved, dressed and headed off to work, picking up a newspaper while walking to the subway, read the paper on the train, pleasantly surprised that I actually got a seat for the 45-minute trip, got off at my stop and was mystified by the sparse rush hour crowds on the sidewalk. Looked carefully at the paper I'd just finished reading. It was Saturday. Story 3. I used to work as a short order cook in a deli. I would crack up to 20 to 30 eggs on the flat top at a time. I would be cracking eggs at some points and crack the egg, split it open over the garbage can, and throw the shell on the flat top. Story 4. Was welding up a part in my shop and had a 2B to weld on one side, flipped the part around on the table and started welding in the zoned out way a person does at the end of the day, welded the part to my welding bench, flipped my hood up and looked at it and was completely baffled at my stupidity. Story 5. Grabbed the milk from the fridge, opened the cabinet to grab a glass, put the milk in the cabinet. I got distracted for a second and forgot where I put it. I spent the next 20 minutes looking for the milk, all while my family was convinced I was playing some dumb prank on them by hiding the milk. Story 6. Had a microwave burger that goes in for 3 minutes. I put it on for 30 minutes and proceeded to do other stuff, whilst checking to see if the microwave was finished. I remember thinking it was taking a long time, but still I checked and waited for the 3 minutes to end. That burger was rock hard and devoid of any moisture. I had a sandwich instead, but it makes me smile to this day for some reason. Story 7. I work at a thrift store. One of my jobs is pricing donations and taking them out to the sales floor. While pricing, I also act as a final quality control, and am free to throw out anything I don't think ID in sellable condition. We have rags and a bottle of all-purpose cleaner for when we're pricing and such as well. One day, I was doing the dishes at home, I was washing a bunch of silverware, and got to this one knife that had a spot or something really onto it. I scrubbed at it for a good minute or so before saying it, I've wasted enough time on this, and then I tossed off to my left, where my garbage can usually is at work. And then I remembered I wasn't at work. I can't just throw stuff away because it's too much trouble to clean. Story 8. Put the sugar back in the fridge and the milk in a drawer for my morning coffee. I also walked against a street lamp full speed while watching on my phone. It even made a gong sound when hitting it. There were also a bunch of people waiting on the other side of the street. Well, I don't mind, could be worse. Story 9. Discovered myself walking into our second-story bedroom with a box of confectioner's sugar tucked under my arm. Kitchen is downstairs. I wasn't baking anything. Story 10. I was at an intersection. There were 5 lanes on my side of the street. I was in the far left lane, with my left blinker on. My instructions told me to go left. My friend in the passenger seat said to go left. I turned right. I crossed 4 lanes of traffic. Have no idea what happened. And I was completely sober. Story 11. My wife and I used to alternate who picked up our daughter from school every week depending on who was on the early shift. Got home and my wife was already home. Our daughter used to play a game every afternoon after school where she would hide and whoever came home second would come in and loudly say where is she, and the other one would reply with she's not here. My wife or I would then have to go and look for her and find her. So I get home after my wife and walk in and say where is she, my wife replies with she's not here. I then start looking for her and my wife says no, she's really not here, you were supposed to get her today because I had an appointment after work and didn't pick her up, you were meant to get her. I'd driven home and forgotten to pick up my daughter from school. Lucky we lived close to the school so it wasn't a massive issue. Story 12. So about once a month or so we'll be getting up to speed on my way home and have to stop myself while reaching for the gear lever to shift into 6th gear. My car doesn't have a 6-speed. I've never driven a car with a 6-speed. I have no idea why I do this. I welcomed someone into the store I was shopping at when I heard the store bell ring.
Nasty customer service habit.
Story 13. Walked into a bathroom between classes at high school while an intense conversation was going on. We all started using the urinals. While still engrossed in the discussion, so I did not notice that I was standing at a sink, not a urinal, and I was peeing. I cleaned the sink really well afterwards, at least. Story 14. Too many times I have taken the electric toothbrush out of my mouth before turning it off. Just toothpaste and spit spraying all over my clothes, the mirror, and the sink. I brush my teeth twice a day. You'd think I'd have it down pat by now. Story 15. My husband bought a new car but then had to go away for a couple weeks before it was ready. We were going to pick it up a few days after he returned, but I got the call saying it was ready a few days before he was due back. I decided I'd surprise him by getting it so it'd be there when he came home. I made the arrangements and drove the 4 hours to the dealership, alone, got there and realized I couldn't drive both my car and his new car home. Story 16. Ordered some burgers, ate half of one, then re-wrapped the half-eaten burger and put it in the bag so I could enjoy the other one. I was horrified 5 minutes later when I reopened the bag and thought they gave me someone else's half-eaten burger. I had the number to corporate pulled up on my phone, absolutely fuming, when I realized what I'd done. Hungry me is an idiot. Story 17. I was on a call with someone while taking out the trash before heading to school. Reaching the dumpster, I take off my bag, threw it inside and then began walking to school with the trash bag. Instead, it was only when I wanted to grab my headphones from my bag that I realized what I just did. Story 18. I almost threw a full gallon of milk which was perfectly fine away, almost threw a cup away, almost threw a plate away, Basically my subconscious thinks everything in my kitchen is trash. Story 19. I once really scratched up my eye because I couldn't get my contact lens out no matter how hard I tried. It took me about 10 minutes of this to realize it was morning. In the morning you put the lenses in. You cannot take them out in the morning because you're not wearing them yet. Story 20. I would come home from work, open my fridge, grab a water. The next morning I would open my fridge to find my keys. For weeks, I'd trade a water for keys every time I came home. Story 21. We were in debate class thinking of some topics for Hotspot. I wrote down Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man and told other people. They disagreed, so I tried to say Tom Holland is the best Peter Parker as a compromise, and I accidentally said Tom Holland is the best Tom Holland. Story 22. Put the wrong contact lens in my left eye, swapped it to my right eye, put another lens in the right eye since that's the eye I always put the second lens in, can't see out of my right eye, panicked because I thought I lost the lens in my right eye, stand in front of the mirror frantically rolling my eye. Put on the glasses to look for potentially dropped lens, still can't see right, realization slowly dawns. Story 23. I was at a hotel for a convention and really tired from the day before. I'm pouring coffee at the continental breakfast, open and pour sweetener, throw packets in the trash, open creamer, pour creamer into the trash, stand still with empty creamer in hand. Story 24. When I walk into a room with the lights on, I automatically turn the switch which turns them off even though my brain has fully recognized that the lights are already on. Story 25. As a mechanic I had to do a clutch in a pickup truck. I installed the transmission back in the truck, when I realized the old clutch was on the ground, and the new clutch was sitting in a box on my toolbox. Story 26. I left my phone at a friend's house. He realized I'd left it and he decides to call me to tell me I left my phone there. He rings me and naturally my phone starts ringing because he called it. So he picks it up to tell whoever is ringing that I'm not around as I left my phone there. When he answers, the hello he says echoes back to him. Hello, it echoes back again. He told me it took a good 15 or so seconds before he realized what had done and that he was talking to his own echo. Story 27. Threw my 20 that I received for my birthday in the garbage because I was sleepwalking and then spilled water on the floor and then slipped and came back to life for realizing what I did cause my family was watching me and filmed it all. Story 28. Was driving in the highway going 75 in the fast lane and thought what would happen if I put it in reverse and just did it without thinking. Was about 15 years ago, glad to be alive. Story 29. Not really autopilot, but I went in the closet to get ready for school at 3 a.m. on a Saturday. I woke up my roommate who wasn't pleased and proceeded to argue with her about how she should have left by now, and I couldn't believe I was going to be late. When I woke up my underwear was inside out and backwards. Story 30. I was staying over my grandma's place and she had this second toilet seat for extra stability. I woke up at 3 a.m. and had to. The seat was over the floor and I just assumed that it was over the toilet. Bad morning. Story 31. Last week, I did both of these things while driving home. I thought to myself I should really turn my car off while driving to save on gas, and then I made a bowl of cereal and forgot to eat it, so while throwing it away, I dumped the cereal in the sink and poured the milk in the trash. Obviously that was backwards and led to a great mess. Story 32. First thing that comes to mind is how I ruined a bowl of spaghetti and sauce by pouring soda in it instead of the glass I had put out a second ago. So sad. Story 33. While holding my wallet in a different hand, I decided to throw some trash in the bin. Guess what I threw in instead? The best part was I only realized it when I found out my wallet was missing hours later. Story 34. I used to vape a lot and make my own coils on RDA's rebuildable dripper atomizers. On more than one occasion, I've forgotten to put the cap back on and pressed my lips hard into a pair of glowing red coils. Story 35. Went to fill up my diesel work truck, ended up putting regular gasoline in it. Had to have my coworker come with a pump and empty my fuel tank so I could put diesel in. Story 36. I'm pregnant. What dumb thing haven't I done with baby brain? Put a bottle of ketchup in the freezer and ice cream in the cabinet. Put a trash bag down next to the trash can and brought the empty can to the curb. Opened a yogurt and then proceeded to dump it down the sink and rinse out the carton. Tried to put shoes on first, then socks. Story 37. This hurts. Went to my room at the university dorm. Clicked the open key on my car remote to unlock the door, then realized my low IQ. Threw my sandwich bread crust into the washer and then my socks into the rubbish bin. Story 38. Was stopped for a train crossing. Lights were flashing but there were no arms that came down, then kinda just forgot what I was doing and drove forward. Probably missed me by 10 to 15 feet, but it was going at a slow speed. Story 39. Walked home from the train station after work. 2 days later I had to drive to a mate's place and my car had been stolen. After thinking about the last time I drove it, I realized I had driven it to the train station. Story 40. While playing video games I shot a friendly and ignored the hostiles. Sleep deprivation is great. You can say you're drunk but truly be running purely off of energy drinks. Story 41. After talking to someone I usually say take it easy or have a good one. I was leaving the bathroom at work one day and passed a coworker on his way in. We chatted for a minute and then I said take a good one. Story 42. Self-proclaimed autopilot master here. I've done things such as run a red light twice with passengers freaking me out, use my car key fob to unlock my house front door in front of family, drive all the way to work and realize I meant to go to the grocery store, drive to the grocery store and realize I meant to visit someone to the point I walked into the grocery store and realize wrong place, forget how to count money not once but at least 5 difficult days. Lock my keys in my car at least 10 times that I can remember, have multiple awkward conversations due to script being a bit wonky occasionally during my time as a customer service rep, buy the wrong items at the store not once but multiple times, got confused when I didn't have my house key to lock the front door of my home twice, both took me about 5 to 10 minutes before realizing I didn't grab my key. I have so many instances of autopilot, I really think there is something wrong with my mind. Story 43. Would sleepwalking count? Cause if so, I walked up 2 flights of stairs and almost peed in my aunt's pantry. She redirected me to the bathroom where I successfully peed and then I went back down the stairs to bed. I have no memory of this whatsoever. Story 44. My husband took our 18-month-old in the bathroom to brush her teeth. He sat her on the counter, put toothpaste on her itty-bitty baby toothbrush and proceeded to brush his own teeth, with our daughter just waiting patiently. Story 45. A friend was coming to my house for the first time. He called me to tell me that had arrived in my street, but wasn't sure which house was mine. This is how the conversation went. Me, I live in number 11. My friend, okay, I'm in front of your house now. Me, the doorbell is to the left of the door. My friend, okay, but I'm already here. Me, still in stupid mode. I end the phone conversation, open the window and say to my friend the doorbell is to your left. It was only when I saw the expression of confusion on my friend's face that I realized I can open the door without having to wait for the doorbell to ring. Story 46. I was getting my register ready for my shift and asked the head cashier if she had lost weight. She said no and added that she didn't need to lose weight. I said, oh really? Story 47. My buddy was driving and I sat in the passenger seat. I turned around in my seat, unbuckled my seatbelt and began talking to my friends in the back seat. My buddy thought it would be funny to slam on the brakes. My head went through the windshield and my response to him was to apologize for damaging his windshield. Story 48. Getting older, so something gets added to the list almost every day. Yesterday when getting to work I took off my outdoor shoes, got my work shoes out of my locker, then put my outdoor shoes back on. 2 days ago my wife alleges I left the kitchen tap on after washing the dog's food bowl. Last week I tried putting the electric kettle in the fridge. Not the first time. That same week I also made a cup of coffee by putting a drop of milk in my empty mug then leaving the kitchen with it. Nearly every time I get a glass of water from the sink, then duck into the washroom to urinate, I leave the water on the counter then return to wherever I'd been in the house without it. Story 49. According to my fiancé, I automatically say thank you whenever I sneeze immediately after, and before anyone says bless you. Thing is, I have literally no recollection of this happening. I do not register that I'm saying anything. Story 50. I was driving my sister home from work, and she asked if we could stop at the nearby restaurant so she could get ice cream. I said yes, and drove right past it. She's okay, and asks if we can stop at the gas station instead. I say yes again, then drive right past. Continuing my stupidity, I offer to take her to where I work, where we serve ice cream. Right as we're about to pull in, I remember that it's closed on Mondays. As a last ditch, there's a dollar store on the way home that I say I'll take her to, and I drive right past it. Story 51. I woke up out of a dead sleep when my phone rang and said, hello, thank you for calling name of the place I work, how may I help you? And let me tell you that scam artist was hella confused. Story 52. I was half asleep at the time, but I got asked to get somebody a glass of water. My brain thought, I want cake, let's make cake. You know, like one of those mug cakes. We didn't own a microwave at the time. I was almost about to crack an egg before they noticed that it took forever for me to get them water. Story 53. Put my meal into freezer to heat it up and then put remaining leftovers into microwave to freeze for next time. Was really surprised when opened freezer and my meal wasn't hot. Story 54. Was looking everywhere for my phone. Eventually had my mom call it and we could hear it because it was on vibrate all throughout the house. So after like 10 minutes of searching and getting real frustrated, go down on my knees to look under one of the drawers and feel my back pockets and there it was, sneaky little. Just thought it was weird not feeling it vibrate. Story 55. I was getting ready to pour the contents of my coffee cup into a travel mug, but dumped it in the sink instead. It took me a minute to realize what I'd done. Story 56. Sometimes when I came home and mom told me to wash my hands before dinner, and my brain thought out of the blue let's brush my teeth instead of washing my hands, yay. Story 57. Had a drink in one hand and my cell in the other a few weeks ago, went to toss empty drink into trash, got halfway through lobbing my phone and lunged to catch it, spiked my phone straight into the floor. Story 58. Damn it, I got another one. I was leaving my work for a new job and wanted to bring cake on my last day. There were many people so I decided for 2 big oven sheets of a simple chocolate cake, made the dough and wondered a lot, because it didn't need any flour in it. Reread the recipe, no flour. Half an hour later in the oven, dough is still no cake. Reread the recipe again, it clearly says flour needed. I had no idea what happened, but I had to throw everything away, went shopping and made new cake with flour. Story 59. After being for 15 minutes in the bus to work, realized I was still carrying the garbage bag I was supposed to throw in the bin outside of my building. Story 60. The other day I got home from work and wanted to drink some coffee, so I make some coffee and when it's done I walk over to pour myself some. I also have to mention that my fiancé had left a bottle of NyQuil out on the counter, so I walk over, grab a coffee cup out of the cabinet and pour myself a cup. Walk back over to the couch, sit down and take a nice big gulp of NyQuil. Story 61. I had a square of toilet paper in one hand and the brown roll from the toilet paper in the other, and I tossed the brown roll into the toilet instead of the paper. I was really annoyed XD. Story 62. I had to give a presentation in front of the class for biology. I was really stressed so my brain goes crazy. Instead of organism I said, still being bullied by my friends hee. Story 63. Caught vomit. This happened multiple times, but the worst was when we were in a local supermarket about a decade ago. We were walking down the dairy aisle when my son complained he wasn't feeling well, then he proceeded to produce copious amounts of stuff. My brain's automatic response was let's catch this so it's less messy. Thanks a lot brain, so I tried to catch it, but it more than filled my hands. It splashed all over me and onto some dairy items on the shelves, all over my son too, but that's a given. My wife had to go find someone while I stood there with hands full of disgusting vomit. Eventually, a store worker came by with some paper towels, not nearly enough. I cleaned my hands off enough to take my son to the restroom to wash us off. Unfortunately, the restroom didn't have any paper towels, so I tried to use toilet paper to wipe us off. Not very successfully since TP doesn't tend to hold together when wet. We finally were able to leave the restroom, pay for our stuff, and leave the store. Yes, we went back there. No, we weren't followed by a worker with a mop. Story 64. Went to a fast food place. I got the food, checked to make sure it was right, then started eating. About a minute goes by and the drive-thru lady opens her window and asks if I still needed something. I looked up at her startled, then just drove off without even saying anything. Story 65. Today my mother-in-law went to give me a fist bump. I thought Sheb was gonna give me a kiss on the cheek, so I went RO kiss her hand. AMD realized what I was doing, so I head-butted her hand. Story 66. Was doing dishes and picked up a bowl full of soapy water so I could scrub it. Proceeded to dump the whole thing on my head, completely unaware of what I was doing until the water hit me in the face. Story 67. My mom and her friend were talking about how their sons, my older brother and his best friend at the time, were getting into girls and starting the whole relationship kind of thing. They got onto that subject because my brother's girlfriend at the time came to his football game. My brother wasn't supposed to have a girlfriend yet because my mom thought he was too young. Because of that my mom was talking to her friend and she said, and I quote, "Yeah, he's a bit young but he really likes this girl," and her friend says, "Yeah, my son's in the same situation," and my brain on autopilot says, "Oh really, your son knows the same girl?" I got so embarrassed I just stood up and left. Story 68. For a while, I had this nigh uncontrollable reflex where when I used scissors, I would open and close my mouth in rhythm with the scissors. No idea what caused it. Got me some strange looks. Story 69. I bought a 6-pack of beer at a gas station. The attendant sticks it in a bag. I automatically reply, "Oh, I don't need a bag." She says I need to put it in a bag, sets the beer in a bag on the counter. I reach in the bag, pull the 6-pack out, chuck the bag behind the counter, turn and walk out the door. The attendant yells that needs to be in a bag to leave the store. I respond in a sing-songy voice, "No it doesn't," and walk out, not really thinking about the interaction until I'm in the car. My subconscious really cares about the environment. One pissed off gas station attendant at a time. Story 70. Just happened a couple hours ago. Was getting off the phone with a government agency, and the lady says, "Thanks for the call, you can just what I said, you too." Story 71. Back when I was addicted to video games, I once tried to save my life before making a big decision so that I could come back to the save file if I screwed up. Story 72. Been doing a big school project for a few days. Sleep schedule is, food is, I have not left the house for 4 days with little to no sleep. I wanted ramen noodles, so I found the water heater and proceeded to put the noodles into the water heater with a flavor powder, turn it on without water, BTW look at it for half a minute before realizing what I just did. Story 73. I was having a conversation with a blind man on a bus once. He had a small stack of library books on his lap. I asked him did they come from that library over there, points in vague direction of library out of the bus window. Story 74. Spent all day making a really good stock to make a Vietnamese pho, and the recipe said to sieve the stock to remove all the herbs, spices and chicken bones. Only thing is, I absent-mindedly drained it all down the sink instead of into another bowl. 12 hours wasted. Story 75. My friend said he couldn't afford cinema tickets cause his parents were getting a new shower, and I kept on reading it as shower, so I kept on asking him what's a shower over and over, and he thought I was joking till he sent a picture of a shower. Story 76. Plugged in my Bluetooth headphones to my computer, and going to bed without checking if the charging light turned on. My computer only charges stuff if it's on. Needless to say I didn't have music to listen to on my way to school the next day. Story 77. Kept my eyes closed to shut to save the sleep after making a bathroom run in the middle of the night. Half dazed, I peed in the trash bin, which had holes in it, not fun. Story 78. I used to work about 20 miles south of where I lived. I changed jobs and drove 20 miles north every day. One day after starting the new job, I actually drove 15 miles, almost the whole way to my old office before I suddenly shouted, "What the am I doing?" and turned around. I thought I'd go to the lavatory while the co-pilot was already in the lavatory. What a dunce I was. I'll tell you, first class did not like seeing the both of us at the same time. It worked out, just told flight control that the 737 MAX was acting up. Story 79. When I eat sometimes I tend to give my pup a long-lasting treat so she'll leave me alone. Long story short, I accidentally gave her the slice of pizza in my right hand and put her treat on my plate. Didn't realize it until I sat down. Story 80. Mindlessly saying "yes sir" to the super butch female RVP of the company I worked for, after she had given me a number of projects to knock out and had asked me if I clearly understood exactly what she wanted. I immediately corrected myself and apologized, but she was really agitated by the comment and I was put directly on a final warning as a result. The final warning disqualified me from a promotion I applied for, and in turn I left the company a short time later for another and assumed the role in the new company that I was previously disqualified from. I really liked the previous company I worked for and spent a number of years with them, but the pettiness she exhibited for a mindless mistake really put me off and expedited my exit. Story 81. I think this is a good time to hijack the thread for a serious note that's close to my heart. Most Western countries have workplace health and safety standards of a reasonably tight standard. The running joke is that it's to protect idiots from themselves, which is absolutely true. But threads like this prove that everyone is that idiot at some point in their life. These examples are funny and harmless, but it's just as easy for the examples to have dangerous or deadly repercussions if there were no safety standards. Thank your WHS reps. They're there to save you from yourself on your off days.